Babylonia says the only Pantheon that matters to me is my Conan Exiles guild. Um, going back to Liam's comment about the Pantheon has broken. I guess there is now a petition, and there have been cries for a bunch of the leadership and people in managerial positions in Visionary Realms to be fired, and or I know people have talked about taking things to the state attorney general, um, and starting an investigation into fraudulent mismanagement of funds. The 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 difficulty with that is, in order for the state's attorney general for any state to actually take that to a court scenario, is you have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was malicious intent in the misappropriation of funds if you're going to claim that it was fraudulent. You can't just claim because someone did something with the money, because if you read the terms of service, it's very clear that people gave money to Visionary Realms and to Chronicles of Elyria and to the game that I was previously working on and other games that are indie MMORPGs. Those terms of service, those are not, in essence, pre-orders. Those are pledges. So you are donating your money, and that company is, by law and by contract, required to make a good faith effort to develop something. And if it fails, the only thing they are obligated to do is to provide you with an accounting of where that money was spent and how that money was spent. Now, in the case of Chronicles of Elyria, the guy who is behind that, in order to avoid the fraudulent case, because remember, he was taken to court and there still is ongoing court stuff, although most of it was thrown out. Most of it was thrown out because, again, you have to prove malicious intent. Just because someone's disgruntled that they gave the guy $25,000 and he did something with the money that they didn't like, that's not proof of fraudulent intent. So the major cases against Chronicles of Elyria have been thrown out because there wasn't enough proof for the class action, as I recall. I made a video about it like last year, and I'm a little vague on the details. But Liam says, don't know how you can lose so much money and not get repercussions. Legal stuff does suck, though. Correct. The thing with crowdfunding is that it's currently unregulated, and it's the open, wild, wild west, which means people can come in and do all sorts of crazy stuff under the guise of, we're building something in good faith. And if you sign those terms, if you give money to those companies, they can develop whatever they want. And with the case of Chronicles of Elyria and what we've seen with Camelot Unchained, and now we're seeing with Pantheon, those companies have taken the money and now they're developing something completely different. And guess what? By delivering a product, this is very important, by delivering a product, any product, as long as they deliver a product to the people, they have thus fulfilled their obligations from a contractual standpoint, because according to the terms of service that everyone signed when they pledged money to that project, we're making a good faith effort to build an MMORPG, but we could change it at any point in time. We can modify it. We could deliver something that's completely different, and no one can do anything about it. And by delivering a product, any product, and they have fulfilled their contractual obligations, no one can come after them for refunds because they did, in fact, deliver a product. Now, I'm not saying that Visionary Realms is deliberately attempting to release this 24/7 extraction game as an attempt to avoid refunds, but it is a legal loophole that has allowed Chronicles of Elyria to produce the Settlers of Elyria, or whatever it's called, and since that is a produced product, that means he's off the hook for the MMORPG because he did in fact deliver a product. So the same thing with what's going on with Pantheon. They're going to push this 24/7 out the door, and by doing so, they will have a viable product that they have released to the public, and then if push comes to shove and the shit really does hit the fan, they can walk away and say, we did our best. Sorry, guys. Here's where the money was spent. It's going to be on salaries. We did everything we could, but because you didn't support enough with crowdfunding, we couldn't make it happen. Babylonia says, I've had great experiences with Kickstarter with exactly one creator, Goodman Games. Everything else I ever backed was less than satisfying, so I stopped trying. I think everything I've ever backed on Kickstarter came out, but I've been very judicious in that. There's only 2 projects that I would say that are the exceptions to the rule. One is which is Star Citizen, which I backed 12 years ago now, something like that, for $40. And I backed a little indie project from a 1-person development team called Blue June, I think is what it's called. And it's a little, she was running a Kickstarter campaign for like $25,000, $30,000, and I came in at the last stage of the campaign and I played the demo. I really liked the demo and was like, I'll play this. And she's now 3 years late. She's 3 years beyond her date, and the reasons are multiple. COVID happened. She had to move. I think she broke up with her boyfriend along the way. Working from home, she had cats, she had to move out because she was sharing an apartment with him. And I think there were just lots of things that happened along the way, and so she's 3 years late on her project as well. Look at our, technically we are late on our point-and-click adventure game, even though it's not crowdfunded per se. It's through Patreon, but that's a little bit different because we weren't actually selling per se pre-orders. We were selling development updates. So you're paying, the access at the Patreon level does have a pre-order attached, but the number of people who pre-ordered that point-and-click game is incredibly small. So we're not worried about it because they're all friends and family, and they know that Joey has life and things that have happened. So it's not been a big deal. But there's also not been millions of dollars on the table with our little point-and-click adventure game, So, and we've delivered everything else. We delivered the tabletop and module already came out last year. We delivered that on schedule. The novel was out on schedule. It's technically published through Patreon, although I have had the art issues that have been keeping me from getting it out to the rest of the world who didn't pre-order it. Liam says it's similar with giveaways. You can say you will give away a car or whatever, but if you give them a coupon instead, it still counts. Yep. During the live days with H&A. Bubble says never sweat your Patreon stuff. Well, I appreciate that. Liam says, when are we getting 24/7 cash grab instead of a point and click? Hey man, I could do it tomorrow if you want me to. But the Pantheon scenario is incredibly sad, and it is one of the scammiest, scummiest things I've seen from an indie company in a while. And I've seen a lot because I was involved with some shenanigans on my end. Not because of me, but shenanigans with the people that I was involved with for a length of time. That's just so unfortunate that I can't wait to tell that full tale. It's going to be so fun. The Star Citizen situation is crazy. They've collected more money than a small nation. Still haven't released a game. Yep. Oxlorn says, I gave $300 to Pantheon back in 2019. Another sucker for being a nostalgic game. I mean, many people are suckers. I think the worst in the Pantheon crowd are the people who hook, line, and sinker bought into... I need to say this carefully because I don't want to offend any of the people on my community who are fans of Pantheon. But there is when you're charging someone $1,000, and I know it's $750 now, but for a long time it was $1,000. Now it's $750. When you charge somebody $750 to get access to an alpha, they get into the alpha, and then they find out, oh, the alpha actually doesn't exist because now we're making this extraction style game and the MMO is on hold, and they didn't announce that to people beforehand. In fact, the 24/7 announcement would have never happened if the leak hadn't happened last week. So I caught the leak the day of I think the leak went out on the 12th. I caught it the 13th, the first day of my anniversary. Chris and I were watching. My phone pinged. There was a Facebook group where someone had leaked the screenshots from the forums of everything that was going on with the monetization of 24/7, and several people who had just spent $750 to get access to the alpha had joined up and found out that the alpha was no longer a thing for Pantheon, and instead they were being offered this extraction style game that they did not know was a thing, and they did not back that product to get that game. They backed the MMO to get access to the testing sessions for the MMO, only to find out that the MMO testing sessions are nixed because now they're working on the extraction style game because they don't have any money left. And I think it's very interesting to see that unfold, because a lot of people have put a lot of money into that game and they're not getting what they were promised. And I think Aaron Victoria, who's worked on, he's a programmer, he left a comment on the post talking about stuff. He's worked on Project Gorgon a lot over the years and some other games. He's a programmer and he makes good money. And he had a very succinct comment about the situation. It's very sad when you've got people who are taking paychecks with the investment money and with the pre-order money. And it's like my brother and I were talking about. I made that video last year where I talked about how these indie companies have no reason to ever launch a product, because if it's in development, it's in a state of perpetual hope, or the copium as they say it. Everyone's willing to cope with things because it's in development, so people have hope. But the moment you launch, now you get reviewed, and there's Metacritic, and there's, reviews, and there's scores, and there's streamers who are telling people not to buy your game. So the moment you lose the hope and you have to go up against reviews, you realize very quickly that people who don't like your product are going to make your life a living hell. But if you never launch and you keep your game in a perpetual state of development, you don't have to deal with that. You can keep people going and keep them coming back because, we promise we're making it. It's going to be for the betterment of the game. This change is going to be better for the game. We're going to make it better. We promise. Come on, everybody, just another 50 grand. That's all we need to. We gotta. Now it's the 24/7 thing. Project Fairthal. Promise you guys, this is the big thing. I remember 2018 when they said we're fully funded until launch. They made a big press release. We got a 7-figure sum, and we are now fully funded to launch. What happened to that? Bubble says, I did get talked into buying into an MMO thing recently for $30 because it looked fun. I didn't realize it was the people who screwed you over until after. It's all good. Trent says, do you think Pantheon's doomed after Brad passed away? I do. Absolutely, I do. You lose your lead man. Led Zeppelin's not Led Zeppelin without Robert Plant. You know what I mean? That's not Led Zeppelin anymore. It's kind of like, I think that although the other counter to that argument is that Van Halen has been Van Halen under multiple lead singers, as has Nightwish. So maybe that's not a good argument to use. Oxlorn says, I backed Camelot Unchained years ago too. I won't ever back a crowdfunded game again. Personally, I think the time of a new MMO being revolutionary is over. It is over, Oxlorn. I'm collecting my thoughts to put together a video right now. It's called The Lie of Indie MMORPGs, and it's going to go into all of these indie MMORPGs that have screwed people over. And I think the only indie MMORPG that's launched, well, there's two. One of them was something Albion, or I can't remember what it was called exactly. Something Albion, and the other one was Shroud of the Avatar. Those are the only two indie MMORPGs that I could think of that have actually successfully launched. And I think the Albion game is still going as a free-to-play, but Shroud of the Avatar has been dead for years. It was dead within 3 months of launch. Liam says, hang on, you just gave money to dummies, not evil people. That's true. I don't think anybody goes into this with evil intentions, but I think what it is people just... I've made this comment in the past. Most of the people who are running these indie MMORPG companies have no business acumen. They're just incompetent people because they've never managed companies, they've never managed people, they've never managed budgets. Yeah. Liam says, got a feel for guys like Basgrim? Not really. Yes and no. He hasn't made a video in 4 months, by the way. He's the one who I was referring to without naming in the other video. There's just yes, but also no, because people like me have been out there showing them the warning signs for years, saying, be careful, look at this, and always the reply is, no, we have faith, we trust, we believe, the vision, Brad's vision, we trust in the vision. Come on, guys, that's religious fervor is what that is. That's the same, and I don't mean to offend anybody by this, but when you look at I probably shouldn't go there. Let's just say that it's the same type of fervor you see in and my wife is religious, so I can make this statement without offending anyone, hopefully. My wife is low-key religious. She's religious. She does not like it when I make jokes, and she'll let me know. Like, if I make a joke that's a little too over the top about something, she'll be like, hey, you maybe shouldn't do that because that's really offensive. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. I appreciate you at least telling me that you're uncomfortable with that joke. But she's not a zealotous person. My wife doesn't like go out preaching the gospel to people. She doesn't go door to door, stuff like that. She's just low key religious. But then there's people who are like the Westboro Baptist Church, who like go picket people's funerals and are like, he's gay, he deserves to burn in hell. Like, that's the type of religious fervor that I feel like some people have applied to projects like Pantheon, where they just won't see reason because they have too much. That's the copium thing that other people talk about. Brad was a killer at the vision thing and selling the vision, but lousy at follow through. Yes. Quick commercial break, everyone, to give a shout out to our first official guild officer, Bubalonia, as well as all of the guild champions, and of course, all of the members who help keep me on the air full time. To join as a member, simply click that join button below and pick your tier, but you can also support with SuperChats on any live stream or premiere, or SuperThanks on any upload or YouTube short. Don't forget the Discord. Let's get back to the video. But around that same time is when I noticed that all of these Pantheon creators started dropping off, and that's because the extraction mode was announced about 4 months ago, and that's when they first started testing that. And then they did the graphic revamp, and then it's like, oh no, the extraction thing, now that's our main project, and we're going to monetize that because we need to make money because crowdfunding for the game is dried up, and also we don't have any more investments, and the money that we got from investors the year before. I even did a video about that, and if I went back and checked the video, I did a video when Chris, whatever his name is, the CEO of Visionary Realms, got on a live stream with Co-Carnage like a year and a half ago and said, this is how much money we just raised from Series B funding. And I did the math on that in a video where I talked about this is what he claimed. They had 24 part-times and 35 full, whatever. They had like 30 plus employees. I was like, do the math on the salaries. They're out of money in about 15 months. And I think it's been about 15 months since I made that video, and they finally announced they're out of money. So it's just, I don't think any of the content creators for Pantheon, I would be shocked if any of them stick around and continue making content for Pantheon at this point. The forums are a shit show right now, as are their Discord. I was also over on mmorpg.com. Like, there's a whole section about Kilson, who was their community manager for 10 years, got fired, and some of it had to do with the 24/7 stuff and being disgruntled over that. He'd been there for 10 years. He was, I think he was the guy who picked up where I left off, because I only lasted 3 months as their community manager, because I've still got all the messages saved in their forums. I went to Brad and said, dude, I'm happy to help you guys out as a community manager, but I've been here 3 months. I know how much you're raising through the website because it's talked about in the, I think at the time they were raising like $250,000 a month in crowdfunding through the website. And I was like, I realize you guys all worked on this for a year and a half, whatever. You deserve to get paid first, but I need a letter of intent that says I'm working towards a qualified paying position with Visionary Realms. And they were like, nope. And so I was like, fine, I'm out. I'm not going to come work. I'm not going to work for free. And Kilson was talking about how he worked for 10 years for promises of a salary, for promises of revenue share, and nothing ever came of it. And now they've decided we're just going to abandon the MMO and we're going to go build this extraction game because that's what's new and hot, and that's going to get us money, and that's going to, I promise, it's going to help us. It reminds me of, what is it? Team America. When he's trying to get with the girl and she's all like, no, and he's like, I promise I will never die, just so he can get in her pants. I feel like that's what's going on right now with Pantheon. It's like this whole, we're going to build this other product, and this product is going to give us the money that we need to make the MMO. I promise the MMO's not dead. I promise. Oh, it's such a sad, sad, sad thing. It really is sad. Let's see here. I gotta scroll up. There's a bunch of comments that went by when I was reading. VH was Diamond Dave. but was terribly after, but wasn't Van Halen. No, I agree with you there in the sense that for me, Van Halen was the first iteration. Sammy Hagar is great, but Sammy Hagar was not. It's one of those things. Right, okay, I'm reading the comments and I'm getting caught up. Sammy Hagar, Halen was good, but it was not the same, absolutely. Feel bad for a fool type of feel bad, says Liam. Yeah. Liam says, I've served a mission for my church. No offense here. I was wondering why those people weren't around anymore. That's why those people aren't around anymore. Dig That Hole says they wrap their self-identity into things they like, so they refuse to see the negative. A large portion is like this. Bubbleonia says, I like Sam. I like poking a little fun here and there, but as a person, he seems cool. Worst part of Van Hagar was when he tried to ad-lib with a breakdown. Hey, man, I like Sam Hagar's tequila. Cabo Wabo tequila is really good, actually. He's a character, man. Oxlorn says, I logged into the Pantheon forums today for the first time in over a year. A new terms of service immediately popped up on my screen, basically saying they're not legally responsible to deliver the game. So, yeah, that's the type of bullshit I'm talking about, man. Like, they are scrambling at this point to just let everybody know, hey, we're going to do our best, but we're not legally obligated because the money you're giving them is not a pre-order. It's a pledge. The graphic style change was bad enough, says Liam. Yeah. We're soulmates, baby. Take your shirt off. Anyway, I technically think we're heading into the last fight here. You guys got me all sidetracked on Pantheon rant. At the end of the day, I could say I don't necessarily think anybody has malicious intent, but there's definitely massive incompetence. And I think genuinely just some Kool-Aid that has been drank that keeps some people from seeing the reality of things. And I think Dig That Hole said something a minute ago, wrap their self-identity into things. There's, I think last year I discussed this too. What is his name? He uses his full moniker. He's a British content creator that does MMORPGs. Josh Strife Hayes, I think is his name. Josh Strife Hayes did a video on like what it means to be a content creator, like an MMORPG content creator. And it was a really long video where he talked with 15 or 20 different full-time content creators. And one of the major things they talked about in that video was how difficult it is to critique an MMORPG because people associate their identity with the thing that they become obsessed with. And when you make a critique against that thing, you're not making a critique against that thing in their eyes. In their eyes, you are critiquing them. You are insulting them. So they take everything personally. And I've seen this firsthand because I've dealt with that fanatical belief in people that I at one point considered friends where, the friendships were lost because I wasn't drinking the same Kool-Aid. Like, it sucks for that to happen, but at the same time, it's... You wish those people the best, and it's just like, you got to move on. Like, there's... we're all guilty of it to some degree. I'm trying to think of something that I associate with on a personal level that I would feel offended by if someone critiqued it. I don't really think there's anything that's too serious. Maybe someone like my father who would attack video games as a waste of time and as something that just rots the brain. I would not necessarily feel offended by that, but I would feel obligated to defend that and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Here's the reality of the situation. It's a viable income source for thousands of people. It's a hundreds of billions of dollar industry. It provides not only entertainment, but I would you know, there's counter arguments to be made. I can't, but I'm not a religious person, so I don't think there's anything in this world that I'm so wrapped up in that I would get offended if someone critiqued it. I would have to really sit down and do some self analyzing to figure that one out. Josh Hayes plays some real straight stinkers, funny and articulate. I think he has a whole series about like the worst game I've ever played or something. Bubbloni says, funny thing is, are there any MMOs that are good anymore? All I see here are train wrecks, even from the biggest names in the industry. Yeah, I don't think there's any good ones. I mean, I would argue that games like Lord of the Rings Online and Star Wars: The Old Republic have good things in them, but they're not worth, in my mind, maining anymore. I don't think there's any MMORPG out there that I would consider maining anymore, because games like Baldur's Gate 3 can offer me that same immersive experience without all the bullshit of toxic players and monetization and monthly subscriptions and all that other stuff. And the dailies where they're like, come on, log in and do this and get your gems because you need your gems if you want to get this and all this other stuff. Yes, you have to disassociate yourself from other people's tastes. It's a very good way to think about it. Are you sure you want to go to the Morphic Pool? There is no turning back. This is the final point of no return for Baldur's Gate 3, everybody.